Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Eric. I'm the Health Education Media Coordinator from All American Medical Group and Chinese Community Healthcare Association, and I will be your host today. CCHCA, established in 1982 as a nonprofit healthcare association, is also the parent company for AAMG. CCHCA not only supports, but often also partners with organizations that strive for the improvement of public health. CCHCA's annual community grants program provides funding for projects benefiting the public health of Asian American communities of the San Francisco Bay Area. If you have a new idea for a community project like the program today, our community grants program for 2022 is accepting applications now. So please visit AAMGdoctors.com/community-grants-programs. So for today, we have the CCHCA grant program live stream presentation for the American Heart Association entitled Stay Healthy Educational Campaign. So after the presentation, we will do a 15-minute Q&A session. If you're joining us and you have questions of your own, please leave them here in the chat box, either on Zoom or if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave them chat box there. So we are joined today by Donna.Lew from the American Heart Association. Donna, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Can you introduce yourself and your project to us?
Sure. Thank you so much. As Eric mentioned, my name is Donna.Lew. I work for the American Heart Association, and one of the educational outreach programs of the American Heart Association is our Chinese Community Cardiac Council. And so I just wanted to say a few words about it before I start. And thank you again to CCHCA for supporting this campaign. So the Chinese Community Cardiac Council, as I mentioned, is a program of the American Heart Association. It was established in 1984 by Chinatown cardiologist Dr. Colin Kwok, who served on the board of directors of the San Francisco chapter of the American Heart Association. And basically, he went to our board members and said, you know, I love the American Heart Association. They have wonderful health education material, but it's not culturally appropriate for our Chinese community. And they totally agreed with him and said, you know what, you're right. Please write us almost like a grant proposal for a pilot project of 3 years where we hired a bilingual bicultural staff person to work in the Chinese community. At one point, we even thought we would open up a storefront office in Chinatown. However, our office at that point was located at Powlin Post, and we decided it was just a walk through the Stockton Tunnel. So we decided not to open up a separate office. We also felt that it would be better to have this new staff person engage with the other members of our Heart Association staff. So fast forward 35 years later, the Chinese Community Cardiac Council is still bringing culturally adapted and translated heart health education materials to the Chinese community. And again, we thank the CCHCA for their longtime support. So here's a photo of some of our members of the council. We meet on a quarterly basis, and well, we were meeting on a quarterly basis in Chinatown. And however, with the pandemic, we've been meeting via Zoom, and we have been continuing our work. So this is our working group members that are part of the Chinese Community Cardiac Council who decided they wanted to work on this project with us. And so our project is to bring community awareness and an educational campaign to ensure that the Chinese community members knew that even during this pandemic that they needed to continue their medical care routine. And if experiencing a heart attack or stroke, warning signs to seek medical care via 911 or going to the emergency room. And we felt this was really important because about a year ago, KPIX News surveyed many local medical centers and found visits in Bay Area emergency rooms had dropped anywhere from between 30 to 50%. And basically patients were afraid to visit the emergency room or go to their medical provider because they feared if they were out in the community, they might be exposed to COVID-19. And so we wanted to dispel those myths. So our working committee basically decided that we would culturally adapt the American Heart Association mainstream program. It was called Don't Die of Doubt. And as we all know, that title would not fly in the Chinese community, Don't Die of Doubt. So we decided that our working group would kind of tackle this project and the messaging and make it culturally appropriate for the Chinese community. So after many, many Zoom meetings, our committee came up with these 3 slogans: cherish life, be wise and decisive, and every second counts, as our main core topics in the messaging that we wanted to share with the community. And part of the mainstream Don't Die of Doubt campaign basically was a television PSA that was aired on mainstream television. And like I said, we decided that we would do the same, culturally adapt, and have in-language television public service announcements via KTSF, which we all know has a large viewership in the greater Bay Area. Our PSAs, which will be running from October 18th through November 14th of this year, will probably reach a minimum of 600, 340,000 individuals. And we will also request, after that November 14th deadline, for the station to continue to air the public service announcements via their community programming. The public service announcements will be aired during the Cantonese and Mandarin news programs. Also, while our Chinese community was sheltering in place and fearful of the xenophobia backlash, many were afraid to venture out for medical care. Okay, so part of our project also involved developing an infographic handout. And so here's our infographic. And after we finished the infographic at the beginning of October, and we were sharing this with our community members, it was suggested that we also do an English version. And so we could have a bilingual version, knowing that many individuals do not read Chinese characters in the Chinese community. So we just completed that. And so we'll, as I said, we'll have a back-to-back bilingual version. And we're in the process now of distributing those to our community partners, like the Chinatown Public Health Center, Northeast Medical Services, Chinese Hospital, and their outpatient clinics. Okay, and the Nikos Community Health Fair was held on October 16th in Chinatown. And since they kind of had a reduced activity that day, Les Booths, one of our partners, Northeast Medical Services, on our behalf, helped us distribute the infographic. And then they also downloaded the PSA onto their iPads, and they were able to show them and explain to any of the participants of the health fair, you know, that they needed to take action in case of medical emergencies. And just kind of a little side note, we had been sharing the Don't Die of Doubt information via many of our programs, and we were doing a blood pressure workshop via Zoom probably last fall, and we talked about the Don't Die of Doubt, and just knowing if you're not feeling well to make sure to call your medical provider or go to the emergency room or call 911. And after, when we got off the call, one of the gentlemen that had joined the workshop with his wife told his wife, "I'm not feeling well." And so she said, "Well, you know, the Heart Association and the community health worker just shared with us, if we're not feeling well, we need, you know, to take action and do something about it." So they did go to the emergency room. His blood pressure was 178 over 110. And the hospital kept him overnight for observation. And when I learned about this gentleman the next morning from my community health worker, I said, "I'm so glad that he had joined the workshop and heard the information, and the two of them took action, because, you know, anything could have happened in the evening when he was sleeping. He could have had a stroke or anything. And it's great to know that people were listening to our messaging and they knew that they needed to take action regarding his health." So now I'd like to introduce Ivy Kam, who is a volunteer with the American Heart Association and the Chinese Community Cardiac Council, and she's going to explain the project in Cantonese. Loud.
好，唔該晒你 Donna。咁大家好，我係金韻文藥劑學博士。咁好高興今日有機會同大家講解一下疫情期間咧心臟健康有咩重要事項嘅。咁可能大家都記得啦，疫情開始嘅時候咧嘅居家令就係提醒大家，即係最好冇咩事就喺屋企啦。其他冇需要嘅事都唔好做啦，咁就可以減低感染到新冠肺炎嘅機會。咁但係咧，其實而家疫情都已經差唔多2年啦。心臟病啊，或者心臟其他嘅問題咧，其實都係冇停止到嘅。咁所以咧，其實有好多保持心臟健康嘅事項咧，大家都係要注意翻嘅。咁我哋美國心臟協會咧，就係做咗呢個3項嘅溫馨提示啦。咁就希望提醒下大家咧，其實係新冠肺炎呢個疫情嘅時候咧，點樣係可以保護心臟健康嘅。咁第一個呢個提示咧，就大家可能喺電視都見過呢一個嘅3個口訣啦。第一咧就係提醒大家要珍惜生命。珍惜生命嘅意思咧，其實就係話，如果你係本人有心臟病，或者試過中風，或者係有長期病，例如糖尿病啊、高血壓啊，或者係膽固醇高咧，大家都要更加注重保持心臟嘅健康，因為咧，如果係有呢啲慢性病嘅朋友咧，如果你係感染到新冠肺炎咧，而更加重病或者死亡嘅機會咧，其實係更加大嘅。但係咧，如果大家係有留意新冠肺炎嘅預防啦，例如去打呢個疫苗啦，同埋呢個慢性嘅疾病，例如糖尿病、高血壓或者高膽固醇係控制得好咧，呢個風險咧就可以減低翻啦。咁所以係疫情嘅時候咧，注意呢3樣嘅事項咧係非常之重要嘅。仲有另外一個提示咧，就係而家疫情嘅時候咧，大家都可能有呢個經歷，就係譬如睇醫生啊，去藥房攞藥啊，樣樣嘢都要比以前耐啲。可能以前攞藥1、2日就已經有得攞啦，而家可能要等要好多日或者成個禮拜先攞到。睇醫生咧就可能麻煩啲啦，有時可能又要網上睇醫生啊，或者有唔同嘅安排先至睇到正常嘅呢個醫生嘅預約。咁咧就勸大家咧都係最好有耐心啲啦，同埋留多啲嘅時間去做呢啲應該要做嘅保持心臟健康嘅事項。咁就唔好話疏忽咗，或者好我怕麻煩啦，我都係唔去啦，唔去攞藥啊，或者唔去睇醫生。其實呢啲咁樣嘅情況咧，就會令到大家感染到新冠肺炎重病嘅機會就更加大嘅。咁所以咧呢啲雖然好少簡單嘅事啦，攞藥啊、睇醫生都唔好忽視啦。咁第2嘅口訣咧就係叫大家要明智果斷。明智果斷嘅意思咧就係即係話如果你係未接受呢個新冠肺炎嘅疫苗，而係冇其他嘅原因唔可以接受呢個疫苗注射咧，最好咧就快啲去如果你有咩問題就去問你本身嘅家庭醫生啦，或者心臟醫生，就最好盡快去打呢個疫苗。如果你係有呢個65歲以上而可以補打呢個booster 針嘅時候咧，最好都係盡快去接種呢個疫苗。咁我哋大家都知道啦，呢個新冠肺炎嘅指引咧，好似成日都改變啊，好複雜啊咁樣。咁咧我就覺得最好咧，就係勸大家去遵循呢個州或者縣政府冠狀病毒嘅指引。如果你係唔知道去邊度去揾嘅話咧，你可以去華美醫師協會啦，或者華埠嘅公共衛生局索取一啲中文嘅預防病毒嘅指引。或者睇電視啦、KTSF 啦，每日嘅新聞都可以為大家提醒最新嘅呢個指引其實係點樣嘅。咁最好咧就即刻去遵循呢啲嘅指引嚟做呢個防疫嘅措施。而第3個其實係一個最重要嘅呢個嘅提示咧，就係叫做分秒必爭。咁頭先就講過啦，即係最初嘅時候，疫情好嚴重嘅時候，可能大家都會覺得居家令喎，即係有咩事都係屋企安全啲啦。咁但係其實咧，喺醫院啊、急症室啊或者係救護車， 而家我哋疫情都差唔多2年啦，佢哋已經好熟悉點樣可以安全咁為大家提供呢啲急救嘅服務㗎。咁所以咧，如果你喺屋企突然之間覺得有呢個心臟病或者中風嘅症狀，例如心絞痛啊、個心翳住啊、唞唔到氣啊，或者好似突然之間半身麻痹啊，或者講唔到嘢，呢啲咁樣嘅症狀咧，就唔好猶豫喺屋企諗，我出街我驚我感染到喎。但係其實你喺屋企，如果真係有呢啲嘅緊急嘅症狀，而因為猶豫喺屋企延遲咗搶救嘅呢個風險咧，其實係比出街感染到新冠肺炎嘅風險咧，仲大好多㗎。咁所以咧，就勸喻大家啦，如果真係有覺得呢個緊急嘅情況咧，就唔好猶豫，要即刻打911去醫院接受治療。呢個係去醫院急症室仍然都係一個最安全嘅措施嚟嘅。咁呢3個咧就係我哋同大家講過最緊要記住嘅呢個溫馨提示啦。咁希望大家喺疫情期間可以繼續保持心臟同埋身體健康嘅。咁多謝各位。
Okay, now I would like to share with you the actual PSAs that were created. Okay, we're going to have to cut this part. I can't stop it.
疫情期間，心臟健康更為重要，好好注意以下3個溫馨提示。有心臟病或糖尿病、高血壓患者，若不接種疫苗，患病或死亡風險更高。好好保護心臟，按時服藥。疫情期間仍可去見醫生。而出現心臟病或中風症狀，請立即撥打911。急症室有嚴格防疫措施，可提供安全救治。謹記心臟健康3要點：珍惜生命，明智果斷，分秒必爭。疫情期间，心脏健康更为重要。好好注意以下3个温馨提示：有心脏病或糖尿病、高血压患者，若不接种疫苗，患病或死亡风险更高。好好保护心脏，按时服药。疫情期间仍可去见医生。如出现心脏病或中风症状，请立即拨打911。急诊室有严格防疫措施，可提供安全救治。谨记心脏健康3要点：珍惜生命，明智果断，分秒必争。
So we just wanted to mention that this is the first time that we've actually done public service announcements in both Cantonese and Mandarin. And we felt that this information was so important since people are still sheltering in place, of course, not as much as they were before, but people are still worried about the anti-Asian violence and just not being exposed to COVID and its variants. So we wanted to make sure that the public service announcement was in both languages. Again, we're thankful to the Chinese Community Healthcare Association. And also I wanted to mention a few things. We aren't quite back to in-person educational programs for the public yet. And so we will be working with our community partners to make sure that they can help us distribute the bilingual infographic to their patients and their clients. So we'll be contacting the Chinatown YMCA, Self-Help for the Elderly, Unlock, the clinics, etc., to see if they're willing to help us distribute the infographics so that this information is out in the community's hands and that they realize that they do need to take actions in any medical emergency, even with the pandemic. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Donna. That was a very nice presentation in both Cantonese and Mandarin as well. Very good to spread awareness in all the languages to get the full scope of the community. So we can go into the Q&A session then. So we'll start with first one. So I guess this will be more about the American Heart Association, or I guess the Chinese the Cardiac Council. So what kind of services does your organization offer? Is there any free services that you're able to provide for the community at all?
Right. So as I mentioned with the pandemic, we're not quite ready to be out in the community yet. But if any of your members are interested in educational material, we would be happy to mail it to them, or we could send them electronic copies. In the past, when we've had in-person educational programs, we've had conferences on women and heart disease, we've had cooking demonstrations, we were doing a cooking program for elementary school teachers, elementary school students in Chinatown elementary schools, presentations to elementary school children as well on various careers in the healthcare field, because they will be our future. They may be future employees at the health center or at Chinese hospital or any of the outpatient clinics, and to let them know that, you know, not everyone may be cut out to be a physician, but we need social workers and phlebotomists and medical techs and medical assistants. And so we're really trying to encourage that next generation to consider, and especially if they're bilingual and bicultural, because we want to be able to have our community members served. So for right now, if anyone's interested in educational material, they can definitely contact our office or contact me. And my email address is Donna, Donna.Lew, Lew, at heart.org. Our office number is 510-903-4037, and that's actually a direct line to my office.
Okay, yeah, that's wonderful. I'm sorry. Following up on that, would your services also provide, say, a one-on-one consultation, or for any for group consultations?
Okay, so not so much on one-on-one consultation. We really try to find a group of individuals, whether it's faith-based churches or community groups, if they're interested in having a speaker, or even via Zoom now with our situation, that we could schedule that and, you know, provide the information, whether it's in language or in English. We have several presentations that we do in conjunction with some of our partner clinics that we run on high blood pressure management classes. Those are mainly in English or Spanish or other languages. But like I said, right now, everything would be focusing on the educational materials and other resources that we could provide to the community members.
All right, that's great. So for this project, what would you say would be the ideal clients for this project and for your other services? Or if it's not like specific, is it like more like a general audience for the community?
Right. For this project, the Stay Healthier campaign, it's really for the general community. So anyone that would see the public service announcement or receive the infographic handout. And we found in the past, and again, supported by CCHCA, we did a stroke PSA, teaching the warning signs of stroke using the acronym FAST: facial drooping, arm weakness, speech issues with speech, and then the T is for time to call 911. And we had that public service announcement airing so much on KTSF when we would be in the community and be teaching the same messaging. Many of the community members said, I already know that. And so we would ask them, okay, repeat it back to us, because we wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what the F, the A, the S, and the T stood for. And so to me, that really showed the testament of having the PSAs repeated, you know, on a regular basis. And it's almost like brainwashing people that they're hearing it. So, and what was interesting is even, you know, people would maybe be in their kitchens cooking, but they're listening to KTSF and they would still hear it. And they would tell us when we were at these community events, I heard it, or I saw it. And yes, I know what it is. And they were adamant that they knew what the acronym stood for. And so we were very gratified when we heard that. And we said, okay, the message is getting out. We realized that some of these topics may be a little touchy, and we know our community is very superstitious, and we would never want someone to say so-and-so's going to have a stroke, right? But like 1 out of 4 people do have a stroke. And so we treaded very lightly on how we wanted to bring our educational messages to the community. And we did that with the stroke information. We did that with our high blood pressure campaign. And then specifically with this one, the Stay Healthy campaign.
Oh yeah, that's great. Is you really had it burned into their brains now. So so I think that's very helpful. Yeah. Okay. So for this project then, can you share with us any of the challenges that you experienced implementing this along the way? Was there anything that you would have done differently for this?
I think had we been able to meet in person, it would have made a difference, because there's that interchange of ideas, and we would normally meet in person and have it up on a whiteboard or whatever, as we were talking about the various slogans and the key messaging. I think just doing it on Zoom made it a little bit harder. We also normally take our drafts of information, like when we selected the 3 slogans, and we'll ask some of our partner clinics to like focus group test them on some of their patients to see if the information is resonating with them. And so we still did that, because of course all the clinics were still in operation, but it just made it a little bit harder. And I think also not being out and about to see the reactions and being able to speak to community members. And so we will be relying on our community partners to provide feedback to us on, what their clients, what their patients are saying when they bring up this information, when they distribute the infographics. Will they, hopefully they'll say, oh, I saw the public service announcement on KTSF, and I already know that information. I know that I need to renew my prescriptions on a regular basis, and if I fear going out to the pharmacist to pick it up, perhaps I can find a pharmacy that can do mail order or whatever, so that they're keeping to their regular medical regimen.
Great. So then, can you share with us any important lessons you've learned while working on this project, and how do you think you could use what you've learned to prepare for any future projects?
Like I said before, I think it's always important, that we come up with these big ideas and then start to focus in on the exact messaging that we want to be disseminating, and making sure that it resonates with our community, that it's culturally appropriate, because the last thing we want to do is, upset anyone. An example of that was when we were doing our stroke programming. The first year we received a 3-year grant. The first year we did a community survey. And so we had survey, one side in Chinese characters, the other side in English. We distributed through our community partners and asked them to have their program participants or patients, parents of students at the elementary school, complete the survey and then return it back to, their organization. The organization turned it back to us. So we probably mailed out about 2,000. We received about 1,000 back. And then when we finally called through all of them and made sure that the participant answered all the questions, on the one side of the survey, and we had to throw out the ones that they didn't answer all of the questions. What was really interesting, and what always sticks in my mind when we start a project, one of the questions was, if you thought you were experiencing a stroke, what would you do? And it was a multiple choice question, call 911, lay down, take a nap, whatever. And someone wrote in Chinese characters, "How dare you insinuate that I am going to have a stroke?" And to me, that just shows how we need to be sensitive to our community, to know that they may have a different understanding of some health issues, and we need to make sure that we can still get our messaging across without offending anyone. And so I think anytime we start a project and we know that we're trying to reach the mass community at large, we always take that in consideration. And like I said, we don't just take it by what our volunteers say, hey, this is a good slogan, it's going to work. We always test it with someone outside of our organization that is not a healthcare provider, because they may have a totally different take on it. And I think this information translates to any ethnic group that you work with. You just can't, like Google Translate a term or whatever. You need to make sure that the person that on the receiving end can understand what we're trying to convey, and then can connect it to themselves. So it's like, oh, okay, I need to take action right away if I'm experiencing, a warning sign of stroke or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's very interesting to hear. Yeah, it does. It is important to get the message across to people. Like, you have to pick the precise words so that you don't get the wrong message to them. So, especially especially for translating languages as well, since that's something that we're familiar with as well with our organization. Just like you can't, like you said, you can't just translate word for word. It's very impossible to have like a one-to-one translation. So you gotta like interpret it and maybe reinterpret it for the other languages. Yeah. So okay. Now I know you did share your information for contact, but I guess just for the final one, if what is the best way we can get in contact with you for either this project or just like in general for the American Heart Association? What would be the best way to get in contact?
I think the best way would be via email, and I do answer my emails. So again, it's Donna, Donna.Lew, Lew at heart, heart.org. And even if it's like non-Chinese related, you need educational material in English. And I receive that request. I will make sure that the appropriate staff person receives it and mails the information out. So if you are asking for educational material that needs to be mailed, please include your name and mailing address. If you can receive it via email, we do have many digital copies of our educational materials. Let us know and we can send it to you that way as well.
Okay, great. Okay, then, so I believe that should conclude today's CCHCA grant program presentation with the American Heart Association. So we do have a schedule for any of our upcoming presentations or other workshops that we do here at AAMG. So let me just get that on the screen really quick. Yeah, so you can visit us at aamgdoctors.com. From here, you can access our schedule on our English site here. So if you go to the online health workshop schedule, that's where we post any of our upcoming workshops for the month and the coming months. So for presentations just like these, or for main health topics for a bunch of different conditions. So like diabetes or blood pressure, all that stuff. So we keep the schedule there and also post it onto our social media pages. And like I said, for the community grants program, you can find that on our page as well. Again, so you can go to aamgdoctors.com/community-grants-programs, or you can go directly to, if I go back here, the top right community tab, and then community grants program. So I have been your host, Eric from AAMG, and we post the latest updates on our news page as well as on our social media platforms. So that includes Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can watch this presentation again if you've missed it, or you want to watch it again, as well as hundreds of other videos on many different health topics right on our YouTube channel. That's AAMG Doctors. So I want to thank you, Donna, and everyone else who joined us today for this event. Special thanks to Donna again, and the American Heart Association for coming on and sharing the presentation with us. So that will be the end of the program. And then until then, stay safe and healthy, everyone, and hope you have a good day. Donna, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Always pleasure. Okay, and then that will be it then. So take care. Bye.